What's up, folks? This video, we're going to be focusing on bed fishing. It's that time of year. It's been that time of year. These are going to be 3 lures that you can use to catch fish on beds anywhere in the country. Now, keep in mind, this is not an exhaustive list, so there's definitely other baits you can use. Heck, you can probably pretty much use anything to catch a fish on a bed. I'm going to be completely honest with you, but there's certain baits that just excel for their ability to trigger the bites or your ability to see them or feel them. And I'm going to go through each one of those 3 types of baits here. If you have any feedback, you have any questions, please put them in the comments. I'm here to help you, and I'm also here to learn. So if you've got some feedback for me and you want to give me some tips, please put them in the comments. So, let's share it for everybody. So let's start off here. So this is no specific order, but I'm going to show you all a bait that you probably don't typically think about when you think about bed fishing, and that's a glide bait. People like Ben Milliken have recently shed light on their ability to catch fish on beds. We're talking specifically bass. I'm sure this would work for other species of fish, but in case y'all aren't following along, we're talking about bass fishing here. These baits really give you an ability to create an erratic action and to soak that bait in front of the fish. And what I mean by soak that bait, really just hold that bait right in front of the fish's face. There's a couple of ways you can do that. And when you can really get a bait to kind of suspend over their bed, that's something they don't see a lot of. And I personally think they just can't resist it. This style right here, you can see I've got it tied on because I've been using it, and it's got some rash marks on it from getting bit up. It works because it looks like a bluegill. You got other variations, more like a clear water version, or if it was a really bright day, this would work really good well for you, that ghost gill there. Or you go to something like this Arashi, or this Shimano Arma Joint. Those are Arashis, the first 2 I showed you. So this Arma Joint, where it's going to excel is it's a floater. So it's going to give you an ability to do 2 things with this. You can tune this bait to where they're either suspends or slow sinks. These are already naturally slow sinking. So for me, I like the ability to either keep it to where it floats up slowly. You can work it in over that bed, and it'll kind of pause for a second before it starts floating up, then it'll just slowly start working up. Those fish can't stand that, and they will just slam it whenever they do hit it. And like I said, you can tune this thing to suspend it, so you can just hold it. You can get it to where you can hold it right in their face for long periods of time. And sometimes that, just holding it there and then giving it a quick jerk, will create that reaction bite. So that's your first type of bait, is glide baits. And really pick your poison on the glide bait, whichever one you like, the way it floats, the way you like it casts. Don't be afraid to use it. Those are small in comparison to some of the ones like the 6 Sense Draw. I know for a fact works well over beds, and that's a 9-inch swim bait. So don't be afraid to go really big or downsize on certain days. So that's type number 1. So now let's talk about bait type number 2. So bait type number 2 is probably not going to be too shocking to most of you folks, but it's a go-to for me and for a lot of bass fishermen, and that's a Texas rig. Now, specifically talking about what types of baits I want to put on this, I'm either going to go with a worm style, something like this. It's a Senko, and it's just a little bit more slender. It's more finesse. There's not a lot of flair to it. It's just pretty quiet from that perspective, and it gives you ability to work it in really thick cover because it's so nice and lean. You can skin hook this, and it's virtually snagless. Now, there's going to be situations where those fish are not going to really bite this as much, and they're going to want something that's going to be a little bit more loud like this. When I say loud, something like this Zoom Brush Hog. There's the Chigger Crawl. There's a lot of creature style baits is really what I'd put this in category wise. But this creature style bait right here, really these extra appendages give you the ability to really kind of trigger those fish again in another way. They're seeing a lot of action here. There's a lot going on. It's hard for them to determine whether it's a real live thing trying to attack their bed or not. And I've seen situations where they're just more apt to hit it. Now, when I say Texas rig, keep in mind, I'm not always talking about with a weight like this. Now, I'm going to fish it with a weight probably, I'd say 70% of the time. maybe a little bit less in a lot of cases. Now, a lot of times I'm going to fish it without a weight at all, and that's the other percentage for me. And I like that, again, that ability to soak that bait for long periods of time in front of a fish. I've seen situations where it wouldn't bite it dragging, or it may take them for a long time to commit to it and get ready to bite it. But just something about that pausing it in front of their face and giving it a little quick jerk away. And really, if you can get it kind of like nose right into their face, I've noticed they will just aggressively grab it usually. And it makes sense, right? You know, if you come into my home and you jump right in my face, I'm apt to probably slap you away at a minimum. And that's really a lot of times what they're doing when they grab that bait. They're just trying to grab it and slap it away, so to speak. They'll spit it out of the bed. Gives you a chance to hook them, though. And you got to hook them in the mouth to be legal, so keep that in mind. So that's two types of baits you can use. In Texas rig, again, for anybody that doesn't know, we're talking about, you know, a hook that's ultimately hooked in this fashion right here, right? You know, you hook it through the top, you thread it through, hook it through the body, and it gives you the ability to skin hook it. You can do that with any style of bait. So now let's talk about bait number 3. Now this is one that I found semi on accident. I mean, I picked it up intentionally knowing I was going to be around some bedfish, but I thought I was going to be swimming it over them or just swimming the bait and kind of fan casting. But that's this Megabass Dark Sleeper. Now this one looks to me a lot like, you know, a bluegill or a sunfish. And, you know, it's actually missing an eye on this side because I have fished with it several times and I've caught a lot of fish on it. But this little thing right here looks just like a goby, is what it's looked to mimic like. I mean, if you see this thing, see if I can get it here where you can see it well. I mean, it ultimately looks like a little goby or, you know, a little bluegill. I don't think a fish really spends a lot of time thinking about whether it's a goby or a bluegill. If it's trying to hit their bed, they're just going to crush it. And these things work, and I'll put another video out there later in a lot of situations, but specifically bed fishing. Why I like this is you can put this thing on the bed, and you see these things just naturally sit flat. I mean, I can shake my hand and it'll swiggle around on my hand, which is exactly what it'll do on that bed. If you wiggle your rod tip, it'll just move around, but it won't really pull away unless you pull it to you. And so this bait right here allows you to put it on that bed, and this little tail, you see how it wiggles a lot with my hands? It does the same thing. When you're shaking this thing, that little tail is just sitting there just kind of wiggling and teasing that bass. And eventually, you know, a lot of times they'll start kind of grabbing the tail, you know, and you'll pull it away from them to kind of tease them a little bit. They won't necessarily grab it right off the bat, but if you tease them for a little while with this thing, they will absolutely inhale it all the way to the crushers, and you know you're going to get a nice, you know, top mouth hook or deep in the roof hook, and they're not going to come out that way. So this is a great bait to use. It comes in a lot of different weights. Pick your weight, but depending on depth or preference, it's really up to you. I've used a little bit of all of them. And they come in a lot of different colors just to kind of show you. This is another, like a variant of like a little, you know, red, what am I trying to say? A sunfish with that little orange belly there. This kind of a similar deal, maybe like a little warmouth or something like that with that orange on the tips. And then your white to either mimic a shad, or if you want to be able to see, this is a pearl actually color. And I forget the specific color, that's a pearl color base. You can see that thing really well on the bed. So that's why you would use it, is if you want to really be able to see that bait. I feel like I can see those other colors pretty well. But you know, if you want to go with something brighter, that's something that you can definitely do. So that's really the 3 types that I would specifically recommend. Whether you're a new fisherman or you're an experienced fisherman, it's going to be a big benefit to you to have 3 confidence baits, or really just any confidence baits. But that gives you 3 to really feel confidence in. And this isn't what this video is about, but if you know you're going bed fishing, you ultimately have to be able to see into the water. And be able to see in the water, you need to have really good sunglasses. I just picked these up. These are the Bed Fishers. Kind of got that you know, Macho Man Randy Savage type vibe. What I like about it is it covers your whole face. It blocks a lot of light. Right now when I put these on, it really doesn't change the lighting much in this room, which is crazy. And I'm understanding that, even though these are the silver lenses, the blue lenses are even brighter, which would make sense. They typically are. And I understand that they're even bright during overcast. We're talking about the blue lenses here. But I got the silver, so I wanted something that's kind of in between. I have a lot of different blue lenses, and I use these today. And man, you could see deep into the water. And I was fishing some stained, kind of murkyish water. Definitely could see farther than what I typically can in that pond. So, guys, I hope that helped y'all out. I'll put a discount code down into the description. I've already flashed one up there, I'm sure, at this point for 15% off of these lenses. These are Waterlands, so if you've never used Waterlands, I definitely recommend. They're the best optics on the game. You got a lot of professional fishermen out there that are using them now. And if y'all have any questions, y'all can always put them in the comments. Appreciate the time, appreciate the support. Please put a thumbs up, put a comment in there. It helps out the algorithm. And if you haven't subscribed, please do so you can get more content. Thanks, guys.